ancient science of yoga as taught by Paramahansa Yogananda. This lecture's title is Humility, the Herald of Freedom, and was delivered in San Diego, California on October 30th, 1955.
Now for our subject this morning, Humility, the Herald of Freedom. We should say first a few words about freedom. There are certain kinds of freedom that we do not necessarily care for. In fact, humility will not have anything to do with that freedom. So let us first say a word or two about freedom. There are two kinds of freedom. There is that freedom, ordinary freedom, which comes through the exercise of ordinary free will. But that's not true freedom. By the exercise of ordinary free will, we do the things which we think we do by free will. We may wake up some morning and say, this morning, today, I'm going to do just what I please. I'm going to exercise my free will. But if you analyze yourselves, you'll find that you are not exercising free will at all. You are following the dictates of your environment, latent impulses, and habits. In fact, you don't decide what you're going to do at all. Those latent impulses from your surroundings, environment, and those deeply ingrained habits, they're the ones that tell you what to do. Is that freedom? No. But it is known as ordinary free will. So just remember that when you do that, you are following the dictates of ego consciousness, which has been built up from impulses of environment, latent impulses, and habits. And that's what we do most of the time. We're creatures of habit. The only thing, the habits are not the right kind. The habits are of worldly things, not things of spirit. So remember, that first freedom, ordinary freedom, which comes from the exercise of ordinary free will, is not true freedom. Because we are not really acting freely. We are acting automatically from these hidden causes. Now, true freedom is something different. True freedom means that the action which we do is the result of independent action which comes from our association with truth within, or soul consciousness, or God. Now, when we act that way, then we are really acting freely, in a free way. We are exercising true freedom because we are not acting automatically. Do you understand? We're not being pushed into this action or that action and don't know anything about it. We are acting independently as a child of God from soul consciousness. That gives us real freedom. Real freedom. Remember, there's no place for true freedom in ego consciousness. Because ego consciousness was born with the body, subject to the limitations of the bodily consciousness, and therefore we are not free. When the body passes away, if we are attached to the body, our consciousness passes away with it. Is that freedom? Is that freedom of the soul? No. When we supersede ego consciousness by knowing God within, the soul within, and act from His guidance, then we have true freedom. So remember, true freedom comes when through humbleness, humility, you are received into God's presence. And from that presence, you receive guidance. And through that action, you attain true freedom. So to sum it up, let us just realize that in ordinary I do as I please freedom, you are not acting except from the fulfillment of desires laid up from worldly consciousness. And the sad part of it is, as we all know, that our freedom, instead of increasing, things get worse. There's no end to it. There's no freedom at all if we follow the fulfillment of desire. One desire leads to another, and that goes on and on and on. Finally, we are absolutely helpless, subject to habits and environment and latent impulses. That surely is not true freedom. While, on the other hand, in true freedom, our action comes from impulses and motives, from the soul. And what happens? That ties us to God. And where is true freedom? In God's consciousness, no other place, because God is free. God is free. And so remember, true freedom, that which we are searching for and what we really want, will come when, through humility and humbleness, we know the soul consciousness within, merge in Him, feel His great love, then we are free, eternally free. Now, going on just a bit, we come to the question of humility. Humility. Why is humility the harbinger of freedom? Why is this so? Well, because without humility we cannot know the soul, we cannot know God. And in God, in soul consciousness, there is freedom. That's why humility is so important. That's why it is the herald of true freedom, the harbinger of oneness with God, with His all-encompassing love and freedom. So humility is necessary, because without it you cannot take one step toward God. Wherein lies true freedom? That's why you remember the Master, those of you who met him, how humble he was. He could be the other way. If he made up his mind, you couldn't move him. But